Good morning, and thank you for joining me for Set It and Forget It Recipe for Collab Center Success. My name is Wendy Huckins, and I'm the training specialist here at Prime MLS. All of our webinars are conducted in a listen only mode, but we still encourage your questions. So go ahead and find that chat option, open that chat box up, and at any point over the next 60 minutes, if you have questions, go ahead and type those questions into that chat box. I get your chats in real time, and I'm more than happy to answer questions as they come in. Additionally, I am also happy to stick around at the conclusion of the webinar and answer any questions you may have at that time. All of our Prime MLS webinars are available for all of our Prime MLS customers to attend. And if you're a New Hampshire or Vermont licensee, you can also potentially earn 1 CE for your license renewal in both of those states. In order to earn that CE affidavit, all you need to do is make sure you're logged in on your own device. That's how we track attendance using that Zoom attendance list. And as long as you do not miss more than 5 minutes of this 60-minute webinar running from 11:02 to 12:02, then you'll earn that CE credit. We always try to get those affidavits out and emailed to you as soon as possible. With this webinar, we should be able to get those out before end of business on Friday. If by chance you have joined the webinar because you do need that additional CE for your license renewal and you're in that process, feel free to reach out to training@primemls.com, and we can even put a rush on that affidavit and get that out to you before the end of day today so you can complete your renewal process with your state's real estate commission. Have a couple of slides to go through, and this is going to give you an overview of what we'll be talking about over the next hour. There are kind of two parts to your options for setting up contacts and giving them access to the Collaboration Center. You're going to start with that first part, which is contact management. That's where you're going to input that contact information, first name, last name, email address, any other information you want to include about that contact. And then once you set up your contact, you can then give them access to the Collaboration Center. You're also going to be able to view any of your contacts email history, and that's going to include manual emails that you've sent out of the Paragon MLS software, and also those automatic emails coming from the Collaboration Center if you've set them up with access to the Collaboration Center. And once you set up your contacts with access to the Collaboration Center, you're going to be able to review what your contacts are doing in their Collaboration Center. Not only can you go directly into their contact, into your contacts Collaboration Center, but you're also going to be able to review whether they've made favorites possible or rejected properties, if they've sent you a comment, and if they've saved their own search right from your Paragon Connect homepage. Now, the Collaboration Center portion is all about connecting you to your buyer and seller contacts and giving you access to what they're doing in their Collaboration Center. Now, of course, for your buyer contacts, you're going to be setting up saved searches, saving those searches to the contact, and then all the results from those searches are going to automatically populate in their Collaboration Center for easy view by your contacts of those properties as they become available. But you can also give your sellers access to the Collaboration Center. This is going to give them access to listing analytics on demand, and that means they're going to be able to see how their property is doing in the Collaboration Center with agents in Paragon, and also how they're doing in the Collaboration Center with those potential buyers. Of course, we're going to be covering how you can set your buyers up so that they can have access to the Collab Center, and then they're going to be able to mark favorites possible and rejected properties. That's going to help you understand what they are liking and what they are not liking that's coming into their Collaboration Center. Now you can have up to 500 saved searches for every contact. And while you're not likely to have nearly that many for any of your contacts, the exorbitant amount of searches you can have is designed so you can set yourself up as a contact. Not only is that a great way to understand how this process works, not only from the agent view, but also from the contacts view, but it's also going to be able to give you email updates on those different geographic areas that you're watching through those searches. Now, searches can be added to contacts in Paragon Connect, and we encourage you to start that process in Paragon Connect because it automatically gives your contacts the ability to run and save their own searches in the Collaboration Center. You also have another feature of the Collaboration Center, and this is called Agent Preview. Now, you want to use Agent Preview sparingly because it takes this automatic process and it makes it a manual process, meaning you'll have to review the information of that saved search and then decide if those properties meet your client's very specific requirements. And then you can manually add those to your contacts Collaboration Center. You're going to want to use Agent Preview only for your most pickiest of clients, but most of the time you want to keep this an automatic process so the system is doing the work for you. An additional feature you have with the Collaboration Center is called Agent Recommended. Agent Recommended lets you manually add a single or several properties to your contacts Collaboration Center that is outside of that saved search that you've connected to them. You're going to still be looking through the Paragon MLS software for yourself and for other buyers. And if you come across a property that would work for your client, but it's not within those saved search parameters, you can use Agent Recommended to make sure your buyer knows that property exists. And of course, you want to make sure that you give the sellers that you're representing access to the Collaboration Center as well, because that gives them access to analytics about how their property is doing, not only with agents in Paragon, but also with potential buyers in the Collaboration Center. Now, this process really is as easy as 1, 2, 3, and you can do it on any of your devices when you're using Paragon Connect. You can even download an app to make accessing Paragon Connect on your mobile even faster for you. You can also use Paragon Connect on tablets and notebooks. We'll be using Paragon Connect this afternoon on our larger screen, like a laptop or a PC. Keep in mind, you can also use Paragon Connect on any of your browser choices. Once again, just giving you more freedom and more options in this newest view of the Paragon MLS software, Paragon Connect. When you are setting up contacts with Collab Center access and also giving your seller access to the Collaboration Center, you're going to want to go down into your settings when you're in Paragon Connect, and you're going to be able to set up some defaults to make this process even faster, including adding information about you on the Customize About Me page. This shows to your contacts in their Collaboration Center in the top right corner. You're also able to set up not only your agent notification options, but also email options for those clients you're giving access to the Collaboration Center for. And we'll talk more about that as we go through this webinar. Now that is the end of our little slide deck. So that means we can jump over to our Prime MLS dashboard. This is where you have access into both views of the Paragon MLS database. That first option is Paragon MLS software. We call that Paragon Professional. It was built years and years ago. And when it was designed, it was built to be used on a larger screen like a laptop or a PC. free and also specifically to be used with Chrome as your browser choice. And that's one of the reasons why we're going to do all of the things with the Collaboration Center in Paragon Connect. Because remember, Paragon Connect is all about giving you more choices and more options. And that means you can use Paragon Connect on the browser of your choice and also on any device. Plus, when you're setting up your contacts to give them access to the Collaboration Center, when you do that in Paragon Connect, they automatically have access to run and save their own searches. And they also are able to get that very first email that goes out automatically through Paragon Connect. Whereas in Paragon Professional, you'd have to check some of your settings and preferences, and you always have to send that very first email that goes out manually. So more reasons to get familiar with Paragon Connect. Before we jump into Paragon Connect and start the process of adding a contact and connecting a search to them, I always like to point out here on your Prime MLS dashboard, you also have access to your Prime MLS help desk. This is where you're going to be able to go when you click on that bright yellow access help desk button to get answers to your questions 24/7. This is also where you're going to be able to review all the information we cover here. Not only can you go into that Paragon Connect tab and look at the information we've broken out under contacts, think of this as bite-sized pieces of information to do specific things within Paragon Connect associated with contacts in the Collaboration Center. If you want to review a previously recorded session of this webinar, you also have that ability here on your Prime MLS help desk. All I need to do is click back to go to home and then scroll down just a bit more until I see recorded webinars. When I open up recorded webinars, this is where I can go under Paragon recorded webinars, and I'm going to find a previously recorded session of Set It and Forget It recipe for Collab Center success. Anytime you're on your help desk, if you have some additional questions that you're not finding the answers to, you can always reach out to Prime MLS staff. You always have that chat option in the bottom right corner anytime you're navigating your Prime MLS help desk. And if you want to chat with staff, just open that up. Click on the folks that are best able to answer your question. But if you're ever unsure, just click on technical support, because we'll always make sure the right person is answering your question. Now, chat. You'll have the ability to chat with a Prime MLS staff member during our business hours, and chat is open between 9 and 4:45. After that time, and when the office is closed, you can still initiate a chat. We'll just change that chat into a ticket, which is just an email communication, and then we'll get back to you as soon as the office is open. Of course, you can also just send us a ticket here on your Prime MLS help desk. Once again, if I go back to my home page, I have that create a ticket option in the middle of my screen. I can click on that. The email address I have on my Prime MLS dashboard auto populates here. Once again, I just choose that group. And if you're ever unsure, or if you're reaching out to us on a weekend or a holiday, do make sure you choose technical support, because we always have a Prime MLS staff member watching support at primemls.com, even when the office is closed for weekends or holidays. Once you choose your group, just pop in your subject, type out your question, attach a file if that will help us understand what's going on. And then when you hit submit, you're immediately going to get a response. And that response is just letting you know your ticket has been submitted. Give us a little bit of time, and then you'll get that response from a Prime MLS staff member and get that answer to your question. Now, the other thing that's a benefit here on your Prime MLS help desk is you can also review all of your past email communications with Prime MLS staff. This is also where you're going to to be able to find those affidavits that I email out. Of course, they're going to go to that email address that you have on file with us. And if you registered with a different email address for this webinar, we're going to also send that affidavit to that email address as well. But it also populates here on your help desk behind your tickets. When you click on your tickets, just make sure you change that open or pending to all tickets, and that will show you all those affidavits that have been emailed out, plus all those email communications you've had with Prime MLS staff. Doesn't matter if it was yesterday or last week or even last month. This is a great way to be able to find those past communications. So if you're having that same question that you sent us an email or a ticket on, you'll be able to come here and you'll be able to find that answer once again. So as you can see, your Prime MLS help desk is indeed very helpful. And so once we get back to our homepage, now we're ready to jump in to Paragon Connect and start talking about contacts and the Collaboration Center. So I have Paragon Connect opened up here. So I'm going to jump right on to my Paragon Connect homepage. And you're going to be able to see that the center section of your Paragon Connect homepage is dedicated to what your buyers are doing. And we'll come back and we'll talk more about this after we add that search, attach it to a contact, and talk about the information we're going to be able to find about our contacts under the contact viewer section. Now, I can start the process either first by adding my contact and then attaching a search, or I could start with the search first and attach it to the contact. Makes no difference which way you start this process, the end result will be the same. Now, if I am setting up a residential search, that's something I can jump right into right from my Paragon Connect homepage. When I scroll down to quick actions, I have that ability to go right into that residential search. I can also go up to my left corner. That's where I have my hamburger menu. When I click on that hamburger menu, this is where I can go in. I can access all those property classes. I can also access all my contacts. So once again, I could start with the contact and attach a search. I tend to like to start with the search first. So I'm going to go into properties here under my hamburger menu. And once again, there's that residential search option. If I had clicked on that residential search option on my Paragon Connect homepage, it would just bring me right into that residential search. Now we're just going to do a very basic search. I always like to include both active and coming soon properties, because remember, coming soon is that pre-marketing option here in the MLS. Property can be in that coming soon status for up to 10 days. Showings can't happen while a property is in a coming soon status, but on that 10th day or at some point within those 10 days, this property is going to become active. Showings can begin. So I want to make sure my clients know about those properties. So I'm going to click active all, and that's going to include both of those statuses for me. Now with property type and residential, I can search for condos, mobile homes, single families, or a combination of those. We're going to dedicate this search to single families. So I'm going to put that in that field. And then I'm going to come down. Of course, I'm going to put the state. We'll be in New Hampshire today. So I'll select the state of New Hampshire, and we'll be in the county of Merrimack County. That's where Prime MLS is. And if I want to limit the cities for properties that I'm seeing, I can make those selections by clicking those cities or just start typing in. Maybe my clients are interested in Concord, Bow, and Hooksett. So I'm going to pop those in, and let's get Hooksett in. And let's put a price range here. Right now, without a price range, there are 50 properties that potentially could be added to my contacts collaboration center. They've told me that their price range is between 400,000. So I'll put that in with a max around 600,000. So with those parameters, now we can see those results are going to drop down to 12. And if I wanted to look at those results, I could click on search and do that. But what I want to do is save this search to a contact. Anytime I'm saving a search, I'm looking for my little disc icon that's in the top right corner, and I can click on that disc icon. I want to give my search a meaningful name because you can have up to 500 saved searches. So if you have multiple saved searches, you want your contact to know what the results are going to be. So maybe I would call this Merrimack County. And I would say between 400 and 600K. And then I always like to have my client's last name as part of the search. That way, if I'm looking at all my saved searches and I want to kind of clean them up, I don't accidentally delete one that is attached to my client. So I'm going to put this in for Betty Buyer. And now, instead of saving this for myself and being able to access that saved search in the file folder in the top right corner, I want to save this search to a contact. So I'm going to click Assign Contact. If I had started with the contacts first, my contact name would be here in this list and I'd be able to select it. But I need to add that, so it makes sense that I'm going to click on that large plus button. When I click on plus, I need 3 pieces of information: first name, last name, email address. So this is going to be for Betty Buyer. So we're going to pop that information in. I'm going to leave this set to auto notifications. That means the system's doing the work for me versus it being a manual process for only use with my pickiest of clients. And then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to pop in that email address. So we'll put in a home email address. There we go. And that's all I need. Of course, I could continue to scroll down and add additional information, but I'm going to show you where you can also do this once you've set up your contact. So first name, last name, email address, that's all I need. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to get one more pop-up. This is once again showing me that name. I'm making sure I've got my buyer's last name there. And it's also showing me who this search is set up for. And that's my contact, Betty Buyer. And it lets me know that the Collaboration Center is turned on. Nothing else I need to do here. I could add a personal welcome message, but I'll show you the automatic email that goes out. That's really going to have everything your client needs to know about the Collaboration Center on it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. We'll get a little green pop-up. Well, that lets us know that this process has been completed. And now I can just go up to my top left hamburger menu, open that up, go down to contacts, and now I'll be able to see that my new contact, Betty Buyer, has been added to my contact list. From here, had I added her phone number, and if I was on Paragon Connect on the app on my phone, I would easily be able to give my contact a call. I can always send an email to my contact from here, and I can jump right into their Collaboration Center from my contact list as well. I can also click on my contact's name, and this is going to take me to where I'm going to be able to find all the pertinent information about my contact and also what they're doing in the Collaboration Center. So I can see right now there are 12 properties that have been added. And of course, because that welcome email just went out, Betty has not made any favorites possible or rejected. But as she starts to do that, I will see that here. I will also see that on my Paragon Connect homepage. I can also go up into my top right corner here. Once again, I can email. If I'm on my phone and I've added that phone number, I can give my client a call from here. I can go into their collaboration center. This little key has to do with something we'll talk about when we look at that automatic email that goes out. So we'll talk more about that in a moment. You also have this trash can. This is where you can delete your contact. I only recommend that you delete a contact if you maybe accidentally added them to the collaboration center more than once. Because even after your contact finds the property that they're looking for and they close on that property, you don't want to delete them from the collaboration center. First of all, they're going to want to keep going back in there, checking out what's happening in their neighborhood. That's going to be great for you because your branded information is in their collaboration center. So when it is time for them to sell the property, of course, you're going to be top of mind awareness, and they're going to reach out back to you to get you to be their listing agent. Plus, you don't want to lose any of the valuable information you've collected about that contact, including all of their contact information. So I do recommend that once they find the property they're looking for, if you want to limit those emails, stop them from going out, you can either turn the collaboration center off or you can remove the saved searches associated with that contact. If there's no saved search, then there's no email to go out. So I'll show you how you can do that. Behind the little snowman menu in the top right corner, this is your overflow menu in Paragon Connect, and this is where you can edit that contact information. So if you determine as you're working with Betty Buyer that they are indeed one of those very, very picky clients, and you actually need to review the information before it goes into their collaboration center, you can change it from auto notifications to agent preview here. You can also click on more options. And if there is a spouse or secondary person that should also get email, collaboration center emails so that they can access the collaboration center, you can add them here. Or Betty can just forward the email to anybody she wants. So I think that is the preferred method. That way you don't have to collect additional email addresses and make sure you have all those spellings correct, because any email that goes to your contact, they can forward that. Anybody that has that email has access to their collaboration center. As I continue to scroll down, this is where I could change or update or add additional email addresses, and I can add that phone number. So I want to come in here and I want to put Betty's cell number in, or maybe I want to put her work number in. I can access any of those fields and add that information. So we'll pop in that phone number, 228-9733. And then the other thing I like to point out here is under general information, source comments is a free form field. This is another great place to put information about your contact, maybe the kind of property that they are looking for. You can include family member names and ages, birth dates, the anniversary date of the date she buys the property. So you can keep in touch on that anniversary date. You can have up to 1,000 characters here to keep track of some of that important information about your contact. If you add anything, just make sure you hit save. And now that I have added that phone number, when I'm on my mobile and I go into Paragon Connect, I'm going to be easily able to call my contacts that have that phone number there. Now, before we go into buyer activity, which is where we're going to see all of the saved searches we've set up for our contact, I like to point out that under message history, this is where you can see that history of emails that have gone out, not only the manual ones that you may send, but also the automatic emails that the collaboration is sending. So if we click on message history, there's that first welcome email that went out. I can click on that. You can see that this is a standard template email that always goes out. It's going to have your logo, and you can set your logo and your photo and contact information behind that hamburger menu in the top left corner down in settings. It's going to give your contact access to their collaboration center from that Get Started Here. It's going to remind them that they can make favorites possible and rejected. And you want your clients to do those things in the Collaboration Center. That's going to be feedback for you and great reasons to pick up the phone and give them a call. Hey, I see you really loved this property. Should I set up a showing for you? Or maybe it's, hey, I see you're really not liking new construction. Would you like me to go into that save search and change those parameters so you're not seeing new construction information if that's not something you're interested in? You want to take all the information that your client is giving you from their collaboration center and use that information to help find the property that they're looking for. Now, remember that little key that we talked about in the top right corner? And I said we were going to talk more about that later. Well, that key has to do with the ability for all of your contacts to download the Collaboration Center as an app on their phone. They are going to need a case-sensitive invitation code. That's what that little key is in the top right corner when I'm back in my contacts information. But it is also available for them on every single collaboration email that goes out. And remember, if they're sharing those emails with other people, that gives them the ability to also download the Collaboration Center as an app. And that means they don't have to rely on email notifications. They can just go into the app whenever they want to keep track of what's happening in their Collaboration Center. And then, of course, at the bottom of every email that goes out is your contact information. Once again, that can all be set up here in Paragon Connect, including that photo under your settings. I'm also able to use my back arrows here in Paragon Connect. So typically I navigate that way. I'm going to click the back arrow a couple of times, and now I'm right back into that contact viewer. This is where I can go into buyer activity, and I'm going to see any of those saved searches. I can also make some changes behind my overflow menu. And if I want to add a new search, I can do that in the bottom right corner with that large plus sign. So what is your little snowman menu here next to that search we've saved for our client all about? Well, this is where you can control the specifics for this specific search. So if this was the only saved search I had for my client and they found the property that they were looking for and they said, I don't need to get those emails any longer, this is where I could disable notifications, or I could even delete that search. Once again, if there's not a search saved, then there are not emails about that saved search going out. This is also where I could come in and edit that search. So if I wanted to change that year built, so I could bring that down by a couple of years, and then that would eliminate those new construction properties, I'd be able to do that right from here. I also have a number of other options. So let's talk about those. If my client wanted to have multiple people also getting emails about the Collaboration Center, remember I can add that second one in their contact information, but I can also add second through however many I need to under email options. If you open that up, you can add those additional emails here. But once again, I think it's easier for your client just to email the email that comes to them, to share that email out with anybody they want to have access to the Collaboration Center. You can also come in and limit not only why an email goes out to your contact under notification change types, but how often. Maybe when I told Betty about the Collaboration Center, she was a little hesitant. She said, well, I'm going to get those emails and I really hate getting a lot of emails. So I'm not sure if I'm going to like the Collaboration Center. Well, I'd be able to say, Betty, I can limit those emails. Once you get that first one, I can go in and severely limited how often and why an email is coming to you. So maybe Betty said, okay, if you can do that, then I'm willing to give this a try. This is where you're going to change those notifications specifically for this client and this saved search. So I could go behind notification change types. This is the why of why an email is going out to your contact. And the default is set in my settings. Most of my contacts want to get all these emails, but for Betty, we're going to limit it. You have to leave at least one selected. I'll leave new match, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now, the next thing I would need to do is change how often the email goes out. Notice the default is set to immediately, which is every 15 minutes. And depending on that search, that could be a lot or not so many, depending on how specific your search is and how large the geographic area. But for Betty, I want to limit that. So I'm going to click on that option, and now I can change it to recurring. And if she would be happy with emails just once a day at a certain time, maybe outside of work hours, I could always change that here. But Betty's told me she's going to download the Collaboration Center. She's going to be going into that Collaboration Center multiple times a day. She doesn't need an email to give her that prompt to go in. So I'm going to come in and really limit her emails. I'm not even going to reduce it down to just once a week or just on the weekends or every other day. I'm going to take it to its lowest common denominator, which is once a month on the first date of each month at a specific time. So if that's what I wanted to do for this client, this is where I would hit apply and save that. But since this is just a pretend client, I'm going to actually turn these notifications off and hit apply there. You're also going to want to make sure you set your agent notifications, and you want to do that for all of your contacts in your settings. So I don't need to change anything here because I've already limited mine to only send me an email if my contact sends a comment. So let me show you that. I'm going to go ahead and save here. I'm going to go up to my hamburger menu. We're going to leave my contacts information and go down to settings. And under notifications is where I'm able to set up my notifications. And that is all communications by email about all your contacts and all their saved searches. So if you have all these toggles on, that could be a lot of emails. That would make me crazy. So I've turned all these toggles off so I'm not getting any email updates because I know I can just go to my Paragon Connect homepage, see what my contacts are doing, go into their contact viewer, or even go right into their collaboration center. So I don't need any of those email prompts, just like my customer doesn't want those email prompts. The one I did leave on is if my client sends me a comment, I'm happy to get an email about that, just so I know I need to go in and maybe reply to that comment. As I use my back arrow, you can also see this is where you set up those default client notifications. And once again, I've got those all turned on except that initial photo, which I don't think is necessary for an email. You do whatever you think is best for your the bulk of your contacts, knowing that you can always go in and make those changes specifically for one contact and any of their saved searches. With that, let's go back into Betty's contact information. So if I just do a couple of clicks, that should get me right back there. And I'm right back into her buyer activity. And I think we have now talked about everything under the snowman menu, except if Betty said to me, Wendy, I never got that email about the Collaboration Center, I could always resend that welcome email. And once again, that email can be shared by Betty with whomever she wants to have access to her Collaboration Center. So What does Betty see in her collaboration center? Let me show you. I can jump right into that. Anytime I see that little kind of globe icon, that's going to take me to my contacts collaboration center. I'm going to click on that. And this is back exactly what Betty's going to see. In the top right corner, all of my contact information. Remember, I can control that in Paragon Connect settings. If I reply to a comment, she's also going to see that in the top right corner. She also has a hamburger menu here in her collaboration center. And the one thing behind the hamburger menu I like to point out is recent sales. Remember, when we add a save search, we're always just adding those active and coming soon properties as they go to pending, active under contract, and even closed. Betty's going to see the progression of that property in her collaboration center, but it's very helpful, particularly the first time she comes into her collaboration center. If she wants to understand what has closed in this market area that I've set her up with that save search, she can review those recent sales, and that's going to help her understand how fast or how slow the market is moving in this particular area that you've saved that search for her for. I can also just go right back to my home, and that's going to take me back to her main menu here in her collaboration center. This is where she's going to be seeing those updates. So since this is the first email, all the updates are here. And of course, they're available under match listings. As new properties are added, she's going to see new properties. As there are price changes, she'll see those posted here. She'll also be able to see them still in her match listings. She'll see those status changes. Once again, that helps her understand how fast or slow the market is moving in this particular area that she's interested in. And if there's any open houses, she'll be able to see that as well. She's also going to be able to see in the recommended section any of those properties that you have found that are outside of her saved search that have all those features and bells and whistles she's looking for. And you want to make sure she knows that property exists. She'll see those agent recommended in that section. She'll also be able to come in and look at all the saved searches that I've set up for her, and any of those saved searches she has set for herself. And she can set those saved searches by using the power search option, or she also has a map, and she can use the map to save searches for herself here in the Collaboration Center as well. And as I scroll down, as your client are making favorites possible and rejected, those properties, they're going to be able to see those here. And once again, you can always come and see these here in their collaboration center, but you're also going to get that information on your Paragon Connect homepage. Let's go behind match listings now, and we'll be able to see all the details that your client can see. They can click on that main photo. That's going to take them into the full property report. And if there are floor plans, this is a nice feature of Paragon Connect that flows over to the Collaboration Center. Floor plans are also available right under that floor plan section. So you'll be able to see that. And if agents have also added them in the photos, of course, they're available there as well. And you can look at the larger photos here. I'm going to exit out of those photos. I've got my thumbnail option, and I can scroll through those, and you can see those floor plans are also kind of mingled in there. If I were this agent, I'd probably take them out of my photos because they're also available easily from behind the floor plan section. Your clients can easily make favorite, possible, reject right from the property report. And as they scroll down, they can request a showing. You're the ones that gave them access to the Collaboration Center. So if they request a showing, that request is coming to you, and then you're setting up that showing through the listing agent. This is also where they can add those comments. So I would get an email if my client sent a comment, but I can also see that information not only on my Paragon Connect homepage, but also within my contact viewer as well. All the property details are here: open house information, property history, mortgage center calculator they can play around with. Community reports has great information. So you might want to point this out to your contacts. It's got statistical information based on the zip code, school information, home values. Once again, that's going to help them understand what's happening in this market area. Also, nearby establishments. This is going to pull in how close to this specific property address, up to 300 different types of properties. And it seems to not be working today. Let me just see if I can refresh that. And let's go back into this one, all the way down to community reports. And let's try nearby establishments again. There we go. Sometimes you just got to push the system a little bit. So I just refreshed and went back in. Now all that great information is here. So food basket, I'm thinking that might be some type of little grocery store that is very close to the property. So if they had limited transportation, this is great information. Or if they just like to be able to walk and get an ice cream after dinner, they could go into nearby establishments and then just narrow this down to eating and drinking. There we go. So now, oh, it looks like maybe, I'm not sure what food, but yeah, it's groceries. So that's an option. And maybe they could walk to Checkmate Pizza. They might have some ice cream, or maybe there's some other places here that would have some ice cream options. And they're seeing exactly how close that is to this specific address. So a nice feature. And of course, they can share this property report out of their Collab Center to anybody they want to see that. But ultimately, with your contact doing all these things in their collaboration center, how do you keep up with that? Well, let's jump back into Paragon Connect and let's go right back to our Paragon Connect dashboard or homepage. I kind of use those terms interchangeably, and that's where that center section is going to start making more sense. This is showing activity in the last 7 days. For your contacts, activity would be making a property a favorite, a possible, or rejecting, sending a comment, or saving one of your own searches in the Collab Center for your contacts. You can also open up that legend and see exactly what those color bubbles mean. But not only do you get those activities over the last 7 days, you do get an overview of how often they've been in their collaboration center over the last 30 days. So even though Maggie hasn't made any favorite, possible, rejected, hasn't sent a comment, hasn't saved her own searches, I still know over the last 30 days, she's been into her collaboration center 4 times. I can just scroll through all of my contacts and I'm going to be getting that information. So depending on how many you have, you might use that scroll a little more. There's Betty. That email just went out to her. And now I can see she hasn't even gone in to see those 12 properties yet. I'm going to go back to my kind of homepage where my contacts have been a little bit more active, and let's talk about comments. So I can see that my contact Dave has sent me 2 comments, but if I look in my unread comment widget, and keep in mind up in the top right corner of your Paragon Connect homepage, you have a customized dashboard option, and that lets you add, remove, and rearrange these widgets that show here on your Paragon Connect dashboard. So I have my unread comments here, and I can see that 7 days ago, Dave sent me a message about the lot being too small. And if I wanted to see what that was all about, I could click on that unread comment. And with that photo, I can click on the photo, and that's going to take me into that full property report. Yep, it's below 1/2 acre. So I would see why he would think that was a little small. I can use that back arrow, and I could always reply to Dave right from here. Maybe I would say something like, yep, not unusual for waterfront lots to be under 1 acre in this particular area. But once I look at my comment, notice even though I didn't reply, it's now gone because I've looked at it. I still have the ability to go into those comments here, and that's going to take me right into Dave's contact information and specifically into that comment section. So just like we can see all the emails that go out, I can also see all the comments for the history that this contact has had access to the Collaboration Center. And I can just use my back arrow and that's going to take me right back to my home page here. I can also see Stephen has saved his own search. So I'd probably want to know more about that. I could click on that little color bubble. It's going to let me know that he added this search for the lakes area. I could view the results he's seeing, but I would probably just pick up my phone and say, hey, Stephen, I didn't know you were interested in this area in New Hampshire. I saw that you saved that search in your Collaboration Center. I'll also keep an eye open as well. Because remember, the Collaboration Center, when you have those automatic notifications on, it's doing all the hard work for you, getting all those properties into your contacts Collaboration Center. But it's up to you to still be communicating with those contacts and what they're doing in their Collaboration Center so you can ultimately help them find that property that they are looking for. I'm going to use that back arrow, go right back to my Paragon Connect homepage. And from here, we want to take a moment and talk about when you need to make this process manual. So if you have that super picky client and they say to you, I just only want to see properties in my Collaboration Center that have everything I'm looking for. Most people willing to see properties and go ahead and say, hey, this one doesn't work for me, but I want to see all the options that are out there. But occasionally you get that really picky contact, and that's when you're going to use Agent Preview. I'm going to go back down to my contacts and go in to a specific contacts view information, and that's Cindy. Cindy is my picky contact. I've set her up with Agent Preview, and that means when I go into buyer activity, I'm going to see it's up to me to review those potential properties that could work for her. Right now, there are 5 on that land search that I've set up with her. So I would click on that number 5. I would review that information. So as soon as it populates for me, I can click on that photo, review all the information. And then if this is something that would work for Cindy and I want her to see it in her Collab Center, I can just check it. And then I can use the thumbs up to make sure it's added to her Collaboration Center, or the thumbs down to not add it and also remove it from this list. That lets me know that I have looked at that information. So once again, you only want to use Agent Preview for your pickiest of clients. Otherwise, you want the system to do the work and automatically add those properties so you don't have to come in and do that. But when the need arises, you do have that ability with one of your many features of the Collaboration Center. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that. And I will point out one of the reasons that we always show this in Paragon Connect is, remember, when you add your contacts here, they automatically have that ability to run and save their own searches. In Paragon Professional, we're going to jump back over to that view. Remember, it is just one database, 2 different views. So when I come into Paragon Professional and I go to my contacts, I'm still going to see that contact that I just added in Paragon Connect. There's Betty. She's here. But once again, I don't want to have to manually send that first welcome email. So that's one of the reasons I did this in Paragon Connect. Also, it's automatic that Betty's able to run and save her own searches. Plus, just the view and the user experience is just better in Paragon Connect. It's a more modern user experience. If you want to make sure that your contacts in Paragon Professional can also run and save their own searches, you want to first start in Preferences. So if you click on Preferences and you go down to Collab Center, open up Collab Center by clicking on it. And then under Collab Center, you'll want to go all the way down and click on Search Options. This is where you want to make sure Search Options is set to New Only. New Only means this is an automatic process and your clients are also able to run and save their own searches. Prior to that, disable was the default, and that meant it was an automatic process. But at that point, no contacts had the ability to run and save their own search. So if you're still on that disable here in Paragon Professional, you want to change that to New Only. You definitely do not want to set Agent Preview as your default, because that would mean every contact you add in Paragon Professional, that means you're going to have to go in and look at the information and manually add it to their contact. So I would suggest making this New Only. And once you save that, just remember that you will also need to go into your list of contacts, click on that contact name, go into their contact information, and make sure this also says New Only. Because once you make that change, all the contacts you add in Paragon Professional from there on out will be able to add and save their own searches. But those older contacts, you may need to come in, make that change, and then save that information here. Now, with our last few minutes, we want to talk about giving your sellers access to the Collaboration Center. And in order to do that, I have to jump into another training account where I actually have some pretend listings. So we're going to jump into this view of Paragon Connect. And when I look at my inventory, I can see I do have 2 listings here. And I'm ultimately going to go behind that number and I'll show you where you can add access. But there's also a second way you can do that here on your Paragon Connect homepage. Remember, I mentioned in the top right corner, you've got that customize widget option. This is where you can come in, you can add, remove, you can rearrange those widgets. And some of the widgets I've added are those sell side tracker widgets. And this, once again, lets me see those 2 active listings. I'm getting some information about it. And I can also see if my seller has access to the Collaboration Center or if they don't. So if I see that name, they're getting all this valuable information. But if I haven't assigned them, I can do that right from here. I can click on that little snowman menu and I could assign my contact from here. But if you don't want to add your seller's tracker widgets here, once again, you can just click on those active listings under my inventory. That's going to take you right into that section. And once again, I can easily see, does my seller have access? If I see their photo or initials, they do. If I see that plus, that's going to be my little prompt to go ahead and give my seller access. I'm going to click on that plus. If my seller is within the list, I will select their name. If they're not, I'm going to click plus. I'm going to add their first name, their last name, email address. That's all I need to do to give my seller access to listing analytics on demand. My seller is in as a contact, so I'm going to go ahead, click on her name. I also have had this conversation with Sally's seller about being able to add the Collaboration Center app to her phone. She's down with that. She doesn't want to get any additional emails, so I don't have to send a daily or weekly update reminding Sally by email to check her Collab Center. She's just going to do that with that app. So nothing else I need to do here. Those are turned off. Now I will see Sally's initials are there and I can easily go behind my hamburger menu down into contacts and see exactly what Sally sees in her Collaboration Center by clicking on that little globe icon. If Sally is also buying properties through me, she'll see all of those properties that match the saved search under search activity. And when I give her access to the Collaboration Center as a seller, under my property is where she's going to see all those seller analytics. Remember, this is just a pretend listing. So these stats are not great. 22 listings. It's been on the market for ages. I can see the first 7, 14, 30, and 90 days. Agent views in Paragon, potential buyer views in the Collaboration Center, how those views change if there's a price change in that first 90 days. But if you price your property right, you won't have to view that information. I can see if anybody in the Collaboration Center has made this specific property a favorite, a possible, or rejected it. How many others have the property in their Collab Center and they haven't made any kind of categorizing of the property. Beyond the 90 days on the graph, I can see agent views and buyer views in the Collaboration Center in the views agent versus buyer section. I can see if any agents have used that agent recommended to manually add this specific address to one of their contacts Collaboration Center. I can see if agents and their contacts are having communications via comments from the Collaboration Center about this property. And I can see if agents in Paragon, how many of them have this property in a saved search. Also, how many potential buyers in their Collaboration Center have the property in a saved search. There's also some general social media activity information, and I like to call this keeping an eye on the competition. Similar properties to my seller's property within a 10-mile radius will populate here, and this will just allow my seller to kind of keep an eye on the competition and maybe just see how they stack up. So make sure you're not only giving your buyers access to the Collaboration Center, but you're giving your sellers that access. It provides them that listing analytics on demand. And of course, if they are a buyer, it is just one Collaboration Center, so they can switch to search activity, all those potential properties that could be their next home, sweet home, are available here. I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Hope you have a terrific rest of your day and a wonderful weekend. And I look forward to seeing you in future training events. Indeed, Mary, it is a lot of information. So it is great to know that you can always go to your Prime MLS help desk and watch a previously recorded session. Y'all have a great rest of your day.